Welcome to a very special edition of Drop the Act. Recorded in between International Women's Day and Mothering Sunday, we're chatting to Performing Perfectly's very own Georgie Partridge, all about her time with Performing Perfectly, but most importantly, a new project that she is launching for all mothers returning to work. Don't miss it. Welcome, Georgie.
Thank you.
To our little spotlight on Georgie Partridge, mini Drop the Act. Those people who follow our social media will see that you've been doing that little trend of the baby pictures, the family pictures.
Yeah, you're a really big fan of that, weren't you?
Oh, I look great on it. Maybe just obviously we are a family business,
yeah.
But just maybe explain a little bit about what Performing Perfectly means to you and your journey into doing what you do now. Maybe tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Okay. Well, I came into the business about 9 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And I think you'll probably agree it was when you and Lucy had been doing some brilliant work, some brilliant courses for a few years, and realised that the gap was that psychological aspect. So those self-limiting beliefs. People were getting brilliant results with your coaching as far as presenting and very tangible techniques that you and Lucy were sharing with them. But then people were coming up maybe even a few months down the line saying, I'm still struggling with the confidence, or yes, I know that this presentation's great, or yes, I know that I'm coming across well in meetings now, but I hate going into it. What can you do? And I suppose behind the scenes where I was at was I've always had a real interest in psychology. And I was doing my coaching qualifications, so to become an executive coach and mentor. I was doing different qualifications. I was speaking to different people. I was gaining some experience with mentors, and I wanted to get involved. So you very kindly brought me on board, and that's where I come into it. So I suppose when we are leading workshops, programs, one-to-ones, group situations, I am very much that emotional support for people. So, we've had situations where people have got quite upset, and I'm there to really talk them through and give them that confidentiality, that space to work through the background of why they're struggling, why they're feeling so uncomfortable.
Let's break that down a little bit more, because when people talk about coaching and you hear about a coach, you immediately think sport,
yeah,
and business not so much, and certainly mindset not so much. I know it's much more of a modern thing now, but just what does that mean? What does coaching an individual in your capacity look like?
I think it means something quite different to me, and I have to say I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychotherapist. I haven't been trained as such. However, coaching, I think, means different things to different coaches and different organisations. Coaching is a tool in which it moves people's thinking forward, and it creates strategies for them to use, whether it's at work or personally. And I think a lot of coaches, especially when you're coaching in business, focus very much on the workplace and are maybe not scared, but they feel uncomfortable to go into the personal as well. I've always felt it's really important to go into the personal. I think from experiences of when I'm coaching individuals, they think it's something at work, they've got no confidence presenting, and then they start talking and it's, they've been bullied at school and there's links there, or there's sometimes things they don't ever link. So as much as I'm not a therapist, I would say my coaching methods are, yes, strategies, yes, tools and techniques, but also I do allow that reflection and going back into areas where there could have been links, and obviously I refer them on if they need further help in that type of area. But coaching for me is a very quick way in which you can move someone's thinking forward, and they lead the sessions completely. I always say at the beginning of a session, this hour is for you. It's whatever you want it to be. If you want to talk about work, great. If you want to talk about your week, great. in your subconscious probably what it is you need, and I'm there to be a sounding board to challenge you. I definitely challenge people. I don't advise, but sometimes it's appropriate. So it really is an hour to yourself to get out of survival mode and to work out what it is you need to take the next step, whatever that might be.
So you do a lot of coaching with people in business and people in sport as well. And obviously we can't go into specific details about individuals, but what sort of recurring issues or challenges do you see?
Whether it is Olympian, someone working in a small business, someone working in a massive business, a doctor, the recurrent theme is I'm not good enough. It's always that, which amazes me, because you get the people seeking coaching are usually absolutely top performers. They are at their peak. They are leaders. They are ready to take the next step. So it's always amazing when that limited belief comes through. Resilience comes into play quite a lot. Knowing how to cope with difficult conversations, knowing how to cope with feedback, that inner voice as well, that's always something that comes up. So how they speak to themselves is often very different to how they're speaking to their employees, for example.
So that idea of I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
It's sort of imposter syndrome. That's sort of which we all sort of suffer from at some point. And what are the tips? What are the skills that you can use there to sort of lead someone out of that? I know it's bigger than a 30-second soundbite, but what are the techniques in that situation?
Questioning. I'm always questioning. So I will, and it's interesting the answers that come out for people. They don't often come out with what they think they're going to come out with. So I will question them, and often they already have the answers. But obviously there are techniques you can use. We do a lot of breathing. We do a lot of stress management. We do a lot of work on identity and values. So there's obviously, yes, tools and techniques, but I would say questioning is the biggest thing, which just shows that you already have it in your brain, you have it in your being. It just sometimes needs someone to challenge it, question it, to unlock it.
And you mentioned resilience there as well. It's a question I get asked a lot about how do you build resilience? And I find it a really difficult one to answer, because for me it just feels like experience, setbacks, knockbacks, life, all of those things gives you that resilience. But is there something more are there more techniques than just experience?
Well, yes, but you've hit the nail on the head then, is basically you've already got the answer. So we'll have had setbacks, knockbacks since we were born. And if you just take a few minutes now to grab a piece of paper and write down some of the areas where you've met challenges and you've bounced back, you look at where you've bounced back, you look at how you've bounced back, and that's your answer. You've already got that. Whether it's, I asked for support, whether it's I needed to have a specific tool or skill, I had to go out and find that, whether it's I just needed time, you've already got the answer. So what's worked for you in the past is going to work for you in the future. So always going back to what works for you and reusing it.
And what are you passionate about? Because I know you're a mother. I know you're a wife. You've got two lovely little girls. What was it about helping people, working with people in this capacity? Because you sort of you had a number of different careers. you did a number of things before this is where you settled, where this is where you wanted to be. And what was it, and what is it that you enjoy about this role?
I've always been interested by people, and you'll laugh now because obviously we are a family business. You're my brother-in-law. I've known you since I was born. Even if you go back to the boyfriends I've had as a teenager, I always wanted to fix someone. I always went for the bad boy, didn't I? I always went for someone. Not my husband now, I have to say. He's very grounded. But I've always thought I could help, which is a detriment if you don't focus that into an area. I think this role has focused me into an area. I know now the boundaries. I know where to cut off my emotions, but I've always wanted to help people. And this, I think, is a very simple, easy, structured and safe way of doing that, rather than bad boy boyfriends.
I concur. So this is sort of a mini Drop the Act episode today, because we wanted to announce something that you will be developing and producing for Performing Perfectly. And this is something that means a lot to you, and from your experience. Do you want to tell us a bit more about what's in store?
Yeah. Okay, so maybe if I take you back then. This time last year, I was very heavily pregnant, had my second daughter, and then January came. I had to come back to work, and I'm very lucky that I work with you and Lucy, who's my sister. It's a small company, so I felt very supported actually coming back to work. If you look at flexibility in hours, if you look at nursery's calling because they're poorly, I've got to go. All of that was covered for me, but I still felt, I suppose, a little bit nervous coming back, and not nervous for facing clients, not nervous for working with you and Lucy, but just that shift of, oh, who am I now? Because interestingly as well, I think after a second pregnancy, I knew what was coming. The first pregnancy, it's great. You're prepared, you have the baby, you have maternity leave, and then you're back to work, and it's a bit of a shock. The second pregnancy, I knew what was coming, and we've decided it's our last baby, so I knew that was almost a bit more of a pressure as well, that this is me for life now. This is me returning to the career-minded woman. But I've had, a year off, not using my brain, not using the skills as a coach. I mean, I guess I use them day to day. I do all the time, but not in a one-to-one situation, not with a top consultant, not with an Olympic sportswoman, not with groups of people that I'm stood in front of. And I thought, actually, there is a real gap here. I suppose to take you back, for when I was on maternity leave, I went to a brilliant group called Kin, if anyone's local, in Shropshire, and run by two brilliant women. And it wasn't about the babies, it was about the mums. And it was 10-week course. And every week they had a guest speaker, whether it was a physiotherapist, a psychotherapist, nutritionist. Who else did we have? Someone helping how to use baby slings. And it was about how you coped, and it was about giving you the skills to go forward as a mum. And after 10 weeks, I made a really good friend there, and we were sat in her lounge having a coffee, rocking the babies, and we both said, actually, I want more. Now we were both looking, oh God, in a few months' time, we're going back to work. I need something like that. But for me, going into the mindset of a woman in work, I need to get my confidence back. I need to look at my identity. I need to work out these feelings of guilt I'm feeling. I need to speak to other mums. I need to get advice on how they do it. I need to look at the logistics. I need to work out my purpose again, not just for myself, but for this role. How has motherhood changed me, for the better, for the worse? There's obviously different ways. So that is where this idea was born. There are lots of things that companies offer going back to work, but that well-being aspect is missing, and it's not good enough. There's tick boxes, obviously. There's, one-to-one meetings with managers. There's kit days, but there's no space for a woman to reset her nervous system, which is what is actually needed to be able to step back into that space of, oh, I have a career, I have a brain, I have another identity, I have another purpose. So that is where her edit by Performing Perfectly was born. And it's a chance to pause, it's a chance to reflect, it's a chance to reconnect, and it's our way of returning with confidence to the workplace.
Her edit.
Yes.
So where did that name come from? What was it? Obviously, her is quite self-explanatory, but the word edit to you, what did that mean and why that word?
Edit was it was just a little shift. Motherhood is a massive shift, but coming back to work, it's little shifts, it's little reconnects, it's little edits to make you into the person you need to be to, one, enjoy work, two, be able to succeed whilst also being a great mum, and three, to be able to slot back into the workplace for your management, your boss. I know I'm lucky you're my family, but I want to do a good job for you. And I think most women would if they enjoy their job. They want to do a good job. But to be able to do a good job, you need to look after yourself a little bit. And that's more than 1 hour on Teams with a line manager who doesn't care about you.
Just say that again. There was pause to just that little sentence you said there. So her edit.
Yeah. Pause, reflect, reconnect, return with confidence.
And what does that look like then? What can someone expect if they come on the Her Edit retreat? Would that be the right word?
It's a retreat. It's a 1-day retreat. And this is a founding pilot program because I know what my experience is, but I don't know what other women's experiences are. So I've created a 1-day retreat in a beautiful venue with gorgeous, nutritious food. That was very important to me. And strategies in place to give you confidence back, to work on that inner voice, to reclaim your identity, to work out who you want to be moving forward in a safe space where you can, I've said it before, but where you have that space to reset your nervous system. So it's in nature. It is in a beautiful retreat with other women who are going through what you're going through. And it is a day just for you to have space, to really think and to network as well, because that's really important coming back. You forget that there's other people, you forget that there's other worlds, you forget that there's other companies, and it's just getting you back into that mindset as well.
So obviously you said to reset, to think. What's the difference though between, sorry, this sounds...
Are you testing me?
No, I'm not testing you, but I'm just going, it could be a lovely spa weekend. You can go away and you can reset.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
So what's the difference here? What can people, what are they, what are the takeaways that people will have?
Listen, if you can go on a spa weekend as well, perfect. This won't be a spa weekend because I will be challenging you and I will be making you feel some uncomfortable feelings. But I know from my experience, when you feel that, when you really actually allow yourself to feel that fear, that's when we're going to put some strategies in. That's where we're going to put some blockers in to make sure that when you are feeling that, I don't necessarily want to go back, or I'm nervous about this, you've instantly got a strategy. You instantly got a visualization. You've instantly got feelings that we will have worked with on that day to go back and know you'll be okay. So it's really working with that psychology more than just, oh yeah, this is a nice day out.
Well, I suppose, where you started off talking about that imposter syndrome or those insecurities, I imagine that they grow during pregnancy, and stepping back into work after 12 months sometimes can only heighten that.
Yeah.
And so as you quite rightly say, it's a chance to relook at that and just sort of knock some of those things on the head before you step back into the work.
Yeah, and I would say it's a bit of a strange way to say it, but people that are pregnant now and thinking, oh, I will be going back into work, think of this as you will thank yourself in the future. You will thank past you for coming on this day. It's a bit like how you thank yourself on maternity leave for cooking that spaghetti bolognese and putting it in the freezer, because that night when the baby's crying, you wouldn't have been able to cook from fresh. So you thank your past self for that. You're going to thank your past self for booking this retreat and booking this day to get yourself back on track. And, your company's going to thank you too. So
I know you've looked into whether there's other places that do this. And there are.
Yeah, there are.
Places that do it. But what makes this one different, do you feel, from your research?
One, it's face-to-face, and I think that's really important. I work with people all over the country, but But I will always make the effort, if possible, to see them in person first for their first session, and then we can go on Teams or Zoom. You need that in person. You need to be able to feel, I suppose for a better word, the energy of others. You need to be able to build that rapport and feel safe. From women I've approached about what they've been, able to access, it's maybe a 1 hour online session, whether that's someone's talking, it's pre-recorded, or whether it's some articles to read. It's nothing that actually is helping you as a person, the individual you are. This is helping. It's a small group on purpose. There'll be 10 to 12 women. And that means you get that real personalized strategy and training. So that's one of the differences. I suppose the other difference is the setting. It's not in a corporate workplace. It's not in your kitchen where the washing machine's going off. It's in a beautiful home with nature, with ground to walk around, hopefully with the weather being okay.
We should say that this venue is in Shropshire.
It is near Shrewsbury, and this is my non-negotiable moving forward. It has to always be in nature. I think it's really important, not in the middle of nowhere, but somewhere you can breathe and somewhere you can go outside and just, hear wind, birds, and not keyboards and other people talking and Teams calls and your phone going off. You need to be able to take that break.
And is this something that you're looking at the individuals themselves to be, obviously they would want to go on it, but you think also businesses should be looking to this to go, actually we should give our mothers that TLC?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this is why I'm really passionate about this founding retreat, this founding pilot, being about getting some research in as well, because I know, like I said, what works for me. I know what works for clients, but it's going to be amazing to hear other women's voices as well, saying, actually, that was brilliant, but I could do with a little bit of this and that. And so I will go away, tweak it, make it the best package it can be. And that's when I want to go out to companies and say, you need this. I was looking at research, and there's 27% of women don't return to work, or they leave within a year. I'm looking down at my notes because I can't remember these stats. They're crazy. 70% report dread, stress, or anxiety going back to work, and only 17% felt confident to go back into the workplace. And that's not a motherhood issue. That's a workplace issue. That's something that needs to be changed in the workplace. That's not our problem. That's not our problem. You need to do something about it.
Yeah. So I suppose there's I've had very little experience apart from you, really.
Yeah.
You going on maternity leave, but also working in shows. There's women who've left to go and have babies, and then suddenly they're back and they're thrown back into the throes of performing, and leaving a child at night time.
Yeah.
Which is a very special time, bath time, sleep, bedtime.
Yeah.
And that's very, very difficult for women in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually, this past few days, went to my friends and contacts and asked them, what do you get at the moment? And I've written down some of their answers, because some of them are, firstly, it's very interesting because all of them came back with meetings or kit days or flexible hours, which is brilliant, and that's great. That needs to be put in place. No one said anything about confidence, well-being, getting them the skills to come back. And you think, actually, the amount of money going into leadership training, which is brilliant. We offer leadership training. It's great. I'm not taking anything away from that. But you've had a year off. Where is the training for coming back and understanding how you work, how you communicate, how you look after yourself, that confidence? And it doesn't take much to just get you back up to speed. But these were some of the things. And I should say, all of these women are from different industries. So whether they work in finance, whether they work as lawyers, whether they're teachers, nurses, doctors. One of them said, actually, in one of the offices, they called me yesterday and said someone's handed her notice in as she struggled to adjust coming back from her second mat leave. So straight away. From what I've experienced, it's very poor. No real transition or support on return to work. You have kit days, but other than that, it's pretty much get on with it kind of situation. I got kit delivered home and just told to get on with it. Learn new systems from scratch. I've had friends who've been extremely well supported and others who've been thrown straight into the deep end. It's very much dependent on management, which is what we hear a lot. This was interesting. I was still breastfeeding when I went back and was allocated the cleaner's cupboard with a piece of A4 paper taped over the door to pump. It was straight back into 12-hour shifts, most of which were nights, so you're talking about that, and no time to catch up on training or getting back into that psychological space. And again, a lot of it, we all get correspondence with what we are entitled to, one-to-ones. We also get a phased return. However, it all looks good on paper. And I think that's the point. What companies are doing is they're ticking boxes. It all looks good on paper, but doesn't work in reality. Phased return is not reflected in performance review, targets or promotion. And that's something else to pick up on as well. There's a ambition myth that when women come back to work, we're just kind of doing it to be able to support our husbands and to be able to, go and pick up the kids. We still have the ambition. We still want to have promotions. We still want to earn more money. We still want to challenge ourselves. And there's a gap there as well. But I really enjoyed this one. She just texts back, I haven't known anyone go on mat leave since I've been here. Think a sign of the lack of support. And I have to say, I've got another friend as well who isn't even pregnant. She's not even trying for a baby, and she's now looking to move companies because she knows that her and her partner will be trying for a baby next year, and the company she's at has nothing in place. So she is leaving her job. You've got companies that are losing women to go to other companies just to get a little bit of support. And even then, the company she's moving to doesn't have anything in place for confidence or well-being or imposter syndrome. It's all just, flexible hours, which is great, but there needs to be more done. It's tick boxes.
So obviously there's a lot of learning for the companies themselves,
absolutely.
and a lot of the work needs to start there. But by putting or offering this opportunity to women who've returned from maternity leave, or by the women themselves acknowledging that they need a little bit of TLC.
Yeah, I think you're really right about acknowledging it as well, because it's we can't. I think what you're getting at here is we can't solve all the problems, and it's an issue in society that needs to be really looked at, in my opinion. I think in most people's opinion. But one thing you've hit on there is we do need to accept that actually we do need a little bit of support, a little bit of help. I know, obviously, I've got two babies, but in the middle of those two, I had a miscarriage. And I was thinking on my way here, actually, I remember having the miscarriage and having surgery on the Saturday, second surgery, because the first surgery went wrong and they didn't take out what they called the remains of the baby. So the second surgery I had was to get all of that out, so I didn't have an infection and get seriously poorly. And I had a meeting on the Monday, and I attended that meeting. And again, this isn't management, because I remember you saying, what are you doing? You're not needed on this meeting in the nicest way. You're not needed. Just take a week. And I didn't want to. Maybe it was because I wanted a distraction, but I think also we feel like we have to, otherwise we're going to miss out. We're going to miss out on our opportunity. And that's where we're at as women. It's always, we need to do more. We need to do more. I just had surgery of a dead child. If you put it in terms like that, it's harrowing. And yet I felt, even with brilliant management from you, and he was also my brother-in-law, saying go to bed, I still felt I needed to be on that meeting. So I think that is a real key point here, is that we need to acknowledge that actually, if we want managers, if we want line managers, if we want companies to listen, we also need to look after ourselves too. And this is where that would come in.
But you also just mentioned about distraction. And I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
We'll do something to distract us from where the issue is, as opposed to identify the issue
Yeah.
and treat it. And what you're offering here is not about you all have issues.
No.
It's just that naturally things change in those 12 months.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to be able to reset, to adjust,
Yeah.
and to rebuild that confidence, I suppose, before you step foot into work. Or one of my questions to you was going to be, when would be the best time to experience this in your journey from maternity leave back to work?
I would say before the fear sets in. So I would say around if you're going back to work, it depends when you're going back to work. I went back to work at 9 months. I think this would have been great at 8 months. But you say distraction. Me and my friend just, you bury your heads in the sand. I'm not going back to work, so it's fine. But you're going to leave your baby and you're going to go back into work, and you're going to go back into situations where you feel uncomfortable, because it's good to feel uncomfortable, because you're in situations with important people. You're in situations where you're making a difference. It's great. But you need to prepare yourself for that. And we prepare women for maternity leave. We don't prepare women to return to work.
And the guilt you mentioned, obviously the guilt of leaving your baby, and obviously we're experiencing it right now with you and Winnie, because she's nearly 12 months old and she's a cute little thing, and she's on the nursery bus coming, and luckily, she's tough as boots, and she seems to be embracing it. And luckily for you, I don't think Thea either, but they weren't the sort of children who screamed and cried when you left them. Thea's very, very confident. I don't know where she gets it from. And is capable of just going, yeah, I want to go. Yeah. And off she goes. But a lot of mothers, and we experienced it with Noah and Monty, I think, but certainly having that time when they had to be peeled off you, going back to school or going into preschool or whatever it might be, that does affect you. And I suppose, is there something that coaching would do to help?
Absolutely. And that's where the purpose work comes in, is the why you're doing it. Yes, you're doing it because you financially need to, but also, I suppose if I think about me, why am I doing it? Yes, I financially need to, but also I've got 2 young girls. I want them to see that I'm going into work and I have the ability to be both, to the ability to lead at home and lead in the workplace. I often talk to Thea's 6. I often talk to her about what I'm doing. She doesn't quite understand what I do, but I spoke to her the other day about I'm going to be helping some mummies feel a bit better about going back to work, and she's like, oh really, that's nice. I want her to grow up knowing that I am making a difference and putting things in place. So it's about reframing that guilt. Guilt is not a good emotion to have. It doesn't help anyone, but we all feel it. So it's about reframing that, looking at the purpose and almost sewing that all into place, into your new strategies of getting back into the workplace, feeling confident and enjoying it, allowing yourself to enjoy it, knowing, there's going to be times when there's World Book Day and you've forgotten the costume. It's stressful, but big picture as well, stepping back, looking at the big picture and hearing from other women as well is really useful.
So it's obvious you put so much thought into all of this, and you've really highlighted the importance of it, why it's necessary. So for anyone who's listening and is interested in doing this, can you let us know, what they'll walk away with?
There's a couple of things you'll walk away with. You'll walk away with a fresh sense of identity. So you're more than just a job title or a mum. You're a mix of identities. You have a space to focus on you, set goals, create a clear plan for managing work-life balance without burnout, which is really important. You'll be walking away with tools to rebuild mental focus, confidence, boundaries, again, really key. And you'll have a room full of smart, supportive women who just get it. There's no pressure, there's no judgment. It's just space to breathe, reconnect, refocus, and return with confidence.
And remind us the name of this course.
It is Her Edit by Performing Perfectly. And it will be a 1-day retreat in Shropshire, coming soon. Lovely lunch included. And I should say as well, 6 months ongoing support from myself. So access to a coach. And
what would that look like? So within that 6 months?
It would look like, you're having a bad day, you want to WhatsApp voice note me, and I'm there to support you, remind you of the tools you've learned on the day. It would also be a 1 hour, just you, one-to-one coaching session, which you can choose whenever you want. You may want it straight after the retreat, or you may want it 6 months down the line. That's fine. Whatever you need, I'm there for.
There's probably a number of women already listening to this thinking, I need this now. And we'll get to how they can contact Performing Perfectly. But if anyone is struggling at the moment with the sort of things we've been discussing, have you got any sort of hints or tips that would help them day to day?
Yep. So if you're feeling imposter syndrome today, if you're feeling worried about going back to work, if you're feeling guilt and low confidence, there's a few things you can do. Get a pen and paper and write down your why. What is your purpose? And that is going to go over the span of motherhood and workplace. 2, get outside if you can. Speak to a friend, reach out. There's other people in this situation and it helps to talk. Thirdly, just be aware of that person talking to you in your head and tell them whatever you need to tell them to get them to back off. Because imagine if you were speaking to a friend like that. Imagine if someone was speaking to your child like that, how you would feel. So just reframe that voice, pick someone else, pick someone who's going to lift you up and get them to be your inner voice just for a few minutes.
And if people want to inquire about the Her Edit by Performing Perfectly retreat, how should they contact you?
You can contact me personally, so Georgie at performingperfectly.com. You can reach out, DM us on Instagram, reach out on LinkedIn, and stay tuned because we will be releasing booking details soon on all our platforms. But yes, just reach out. Even if you want a conversation, even if you're feeling rubbish today, reach out. I've said in one of my top tips, reach out to someone. I'm happy to be that person. Send me a message.
Georgie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to see how this develops.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
We got through that.
We did without giggling.
I know, we're very professional. Thanks, Georgie.